Everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces here, and hopefully you all can contribute at about 9:15 when we open it up to the Q&A. So first up, I just want to say, yes, this is a project that is of great concern, but this is not a session to bash anyone, whether government or the project proponents or anything. So we're here to talk about our journalism and our findings. And the reason why we use photos, took a photographic approach to this is because really, if there's going to be development happening on Tioman Island, which has these amazing corals, wonderful fringing reefs, basically what is it actually going to impact? And therefore we thought photos would be the best way to sort of show that. So David and I went up Ulu, Sarawak many years ago, and we did the same thing. We went to an area which is partially now covered by dam waters, and it was to build one of the largest hydroelectric power dams in the country. So that was the Bakun project. Yeah. So let's see what happens here. This is Malaysia, and development takes precedence over a lot of things. So I'm just going to share my screen now and bring you just through a few slides. Then I'll pass you over to basically the highlight, which is David's photos. Okay, let's just do a play here. Yeah, so so this is our just do this. Okay, so this is basically we just decided to call it pouring concrete on Tioman Island because that's basically what's going to happen. They're going to reclaim quite a lot of land, and they're also going to cut away part of a hill, and it's going to be, and that's because Tioman is a very hilly island, and there isn't very much space to build an airport. As many of you might know, there is already an airport there. Do you all see this thing? Hang on, let me just pull this up. Sorry. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go to this map to show you where we are right now. Okay, so this is the story. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the map. So
Lyn, we don't see the map because now you are viewing on your browser, but you only share your presentation.
Okay, so
you have to share your whole screen if you want. Yeah.
Okay, just give me a minute here. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we see the story, the felt map. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we basically reproduce this map based on the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment, to show where the area is. As you can see, this is Tioman Island. I'm just going to zoom right out, just in case you don't know where Tioman Island is in relation to Peninsular Malaysia. So this is Peninsular Malaysia, Johor, Pahang. And I wanted to show you currently, the only way to connect to Tioman Island, well, there are three ways actually. One is through ferry from Mersing to the island. Another one, and Mersing is in Johor. And another one is Tanjung Gemuk by ferry to Tioman Island. Tanjung Gemuk is in Pahang. So it's kind of like, pretty good connections, but all on the East Coast. And of course, the third way is through a flight, which you can take, which goes to a little airport, which was built some time ago on Tioman Island. And I'll show you where that is. It's up in the main kampung, which is called Kampung Tekek. And it's basically, there is an airport there already. Just do this. Got very sticky mouse. Okay, so if you can see here, this is already the runway that is there. But it's very short. And the reason why it's short is because it's all hills. Very hilly area, right? So Kampung Tekek is the main sort of settlement, if you like. And some years ago, they built a marina here as well. And I think there was also concern that the marina would change things as well. So let's look at where, as you can see, it's all very green. So it's very beautiful biodiversity on land, which I think some people don't really realize. And then basically when the ferries come, they stop at different kampungs, including in Kampung Genting and Kampung Paya, as well as to Tekek and then Salang and so on and so forth, right? Now, as you can see, they've decided to build a very long runway, which extends into the ocean. and it will be right in front of the two kampongs. Now, in these beaches here also, there are other resorts as well, and they are going to be impacted by the airport, okay? If you look at the light blue color, these are the fringing reefs. They go all the way from Salang up north, all the way down here. There's loads of islands around here, so beautiful dive sites, beautiful snorkeling sites, and it's one long reef at the moment. So what's going to happen here is when they build this, there's going to be impacts on this section of the reef. Okay. Okay, so now I go back to my other screen. Just give me a minute. Sorry for this awkward screen sharing. Okay, I appear to have lost my other thing. Okay, never mind. I will just bring you through why the proposed airport. According to the EIA, there are several reasons for this. One is to increase accessibility. Another is to boost local tourism post-COVID. A third reason is to fulfill the development objectives of what they call the RKK Gugusan Pulau Tioman. Now, this is a special local plan for the Tioman Islands, which has been approved some time ago. So this is one of the things that EIA consultants say. There's so much attention on when the EIA comes out on the EIA. What about when the plans were made? What about when development plans are made? Why is there not enough attention at that time to these different plans that are being made? Yeah. And of course, the fourth big reason why the government says the Tioman Airport is needed is because they need a multiplier effect on local and state development and the social economy of both local Tioman as well as the state, right? Okay, so I think I'm going to stop here right now, and I'm going to hand over to David to show you his slides. So David went over. I want to thank two people especially. One is Rebecca Lee, who accompanied David, and the second person is Elvin Chelaya of Reef Check, who was just tremendously wonderful in helping the field reporting. Over to you, David. Oh, sorry, I should introduce David. David is a photojournalist with many years of experience and is now an aerial landscape artist, and he does wonderful aerial photographs. We are very lucky that he also does underwater photographs as well, and he's very keen on conservation of the environment. Over to you, David.
Okay, so sorry. I just clicked and then my mouse stopped working. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Before I start, again, I want to thank Elvin. Elvin is here with our webinar today. Thank you so much, Elvin, for taking us around and taking care of me. This was the second time for me back to Tioman. The last time was probably 2007. So it was a long time ago when I went there. In this time, we had to travel all the way. I'm based in Penang, so we had to travel all the way to go to Mersing, and then taking the ferry, 7 o'clock ferry, heading to Tioman, which took us like 2 hours. This was the first side of Tioman we saw, and it was a beautiful island. It was a beautiful day. The ferry will stop at many villages. There are 7. On that day, we stop at 3 before our exit at Terket. So this is the site. You have Kampung Genting on the right. You see a jetty there. And then on the left, that's where they're going to build the airport. I'll go more into that. You have a couple of ferries there. This is the better ferry, a new ferry that we took coming back. Kampung Paya is the two village that's going to be involved. So the runway is going to be built between Kampung Paya and Kampung Genting. So the hills that you see on the left and on the right side, that's where they're going to cut through this hill and reclaim the land right in front of that hill. I'll show you more of that. This is Paya and the dive center. Tioman is famous for diving. You have a couple of dive centers, and most people go there for just to relax or actually go diving. I was surprised going to Tioman to see that the island is so hilly. So, but we'll go further in that, this is coming in to the marina in Kampung Teket, and coming out, we took Blue Water Ferry that day coming in. That's the marina in Teket. The beach in Kampung Teket. They recently, a couple of years ago, they built the esplanade there. And according to the locals, even this small esplanade affected the corals of this bay. So, you know, when you build a huge runway, it's going to cause the multiple effect more than just the immediate area, but further down as well. So this is the island, Tioman. If you see in the middle, you have Paya and Genting. That's the location where the island is going to be. I was staying in Teket, which is the main town. That's where the current airport is. And so on the west side is Ringgis Island. We drove there. And also in front of Genting and Pulau Melina Beach, which is where the runway is gonna hit Melina Bay Resort over there. But all the villagers in Paya and Genting are gonna be involved. I was there only in the middle of this month for only 3 days, but we saw a lot of wildlife there. This is the Brahmini kites. We saw lots of monitor lizards, and of course the famous bats that you find in Genting and also Teket. But I'm sure you find it, you know, throughout the whole island. There were hundreds and hundreds of them all around. Even the current airport, you can see so many of them at Teket. So mentioned diving is one of very popular. You can go snorkeling, lovely corals around. This is in near Genting, and this is Teket. So you know you have a lot of operators that are willing to take all the divers out and enjoy the dive sites. There are not many dive sites, so we were surprised reading the EIA that, you know, the plan is to bring up to 1 million visitors a year once the airport is running, and at least 20 to 40 flights a day. So I'm not sure how the island is able to, you know, the carrying capacity of the island is possible to remember the Tioman is very hilly. There's hardly any space to build roads. For those who have been to Penang, it's like Pulau Jereja with probably 10 times, if not more. But you know, it's all hills. So what we are looking at is the very site that's involved. Right in the middle is the hill that's going to be planned to be cut. It's going to take over 4 years according to the EIA report, blasting for 4 years. So initially when we were talking to the villagers, they were like, hey, you know, airport is not bad, you know, we need the infrastructure. But then suddenly they realized that, hey, what's going to happen when it takes 7 years to build and 4 years of bombing at this very site between the two villages? How will that affect, you know, will anyone come to Tioman at all if this is going to be sort of a war zone, you know? Can you imagine 4 years of bombing? So you have on the left, that's Paya. In the EIA, the jetty is going to be demolished and they're going to move it. And then the hill in the middle is going to be cut, and the runway will run from north to south. South on the right side, in the far distance, you see Genting, and then in the middle, maybe around 3 o'clock, if you assume this is a clock, that is where your Melina Beach Resort is, and that's where the runway is gonna hit the land. Another spot, another view of Melina Beach right in the middle. So all these forests, they look matured forests. This is the view of Paya looking up north. And this is the very hill that's going to be cut. So the beach and the corals of Pulau Pantai village, Genting village, Kampung Genting here. So there are a lot of dive operators here, Paya and also Teket. Amazing, waters. The colors of the waters are so beautiful. We stopped over Melina. Unfortunately, the owners and the managers running it were not around. Too bad. We were told that they have been operating here for over 20 years, if not more. Lovely place. So this is looking towards the hill that's going to be cut. This is Melina Beach. And a head on from the top of the corals with lots of the dive boats there. We managed to dive only a day, but we went to three spots, two spots right in front of Genting and Melina. And then we went to Ringgis Island, which is where they were supposed, according to the EIA, move the corals. They're going to try and do some coral relocation to save the corals. So this is the actual location where they're going to put the runway. So all this is going to be gone if the project goes forward. That is Alvin showing us the location. Beautiful, healthy patches of corals. And yeah, so can you imagine all these corals, the hard corals, soft corals, they are all very, very fragile, and it won't last. In fact, with the climate change, many of the corals are suffering, and even in Ringgis, they've noticed not many corals are doing very well there. So you can't just move, the current corals and expect all of them to do well. The mortality rate is going to be very high. You have also the rare giant clams, as you see here. Lots of beautiful shells. So we dived a lot, and Reef Check rescued this pufferfish. It was on a kelong that floated in, so it was released. This is for you, Alvin. He was so intrigued with all the plants. I wasn't sure what it was, but here you go, Alvin. So now we are diving at Pulau Ringgis. This was done by, I believe, Berjaya Resort, if I'm not mistaken. They did an attempt to do their so-called coral reef. So this is the location near Pulau Ringgis. I've noticed probably just that day, and we didn't do that many dives, but we saw more wildlife, the marine there. The turtles, the green turtles there were very, very, very tame, and we saw Ridley too. So now going up again, I'm showing you, this is Genting with all the resorts and dive centers at Kampung Genting. As you can see, we had a beautiful day, the 3 days there. It was supposed to be stormy and raining, but I guess I brought good luck there. Kampung Genting, looking out. Such a beautiful place. And wonderful sunset, looking out that day on what a wonderful day. All right, that is my, and let me see how I can stop sharing. Back to you, Siew Lyn.
That's so great. Thanks so much, David. Hey, why didn't you give me some of these pictures to use in my photo essay? Anyway, thank you very much. As you can see, David's a wonderful, wonderful photographer. He's got a very keen eye. Bird's eye view, nothing like a bird's eye view. You can see the corals, you can see the boats, you can see the beach fronts. Just referring to some of my notes. We always talk about ecotourism and what ecotourism means, right? What is sustainable ecotourism? In these two villages alone, 28 chalet and homestay operations will lose their beachfront. And these are small little chalet operations. There are, in addition to that, 18 sea sport operators. You just go, as you can see from David's photos, you just go off the beach, you go into the sea. And, I've been going to Tioman since 1994. I've seen it change. I went before the marina came up. I went before the duty-free status was given. And I hear now it's been taken away except for alcohol. I have snorkeled in front of Marina Beach, in front of Genting and Paya. People say, oh, the reefs are not so great there, compared to the other reefs. But let's not forget, it's part of a fringing reef. And fringing reefs have quite a big, important, what do you call it? They are quite important for against erosion. Because don't forget that for 4 months of the year, there are monsoons that hit the island. And, erosion is a big problem, not just on Tioman, but on the mainland as well. Beaches are being eroded, infrastructure is being affected, floods are getting worse. And as David mentioned, climate change. Yes, the storms are only going to get worse. So that's one thing is what is the nature of tourism? What sort of tourism do you want? What sort of ecotourism do we want for our islands, for Malaysia? Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is in terms of investment. Yeah, we spoke to the Marina. I spoke to the Marina Beach Resort, one of the operators, and she says that in about the 13 years, they've spent between 4 to 5 million ringgit developing the resort. Now the resort belongs to them, but the land doesn't belong to them. So they've been paying lease. They've been paying to lease the land as well. So this whole thing again brings up the whole issue of ownership. Who owns what? Who does this really all belong to? And the other thing I wanted to mention before we open up to Q&A is the wildlife on the land. And David took this wonderful photos of these flying foxes. And these are bats, and they're the largest bat, I believe, in Peninsular Malaysia or Malaysia, I forget now. So I spoke to one of the experts, Dr. Shima, and she has done amazing research in terms of how these flying foxes help with durian pollination. And there are durian trees on the island as well, which are kind of like semi-wild, I think. They're being cultivated to provide durian so that tourists get to enjoy this wonderful king of the fruits, and they play a very important role not just for durians but on island ecosystems. And island forests are really quite special because they kind of evolve in isolation from mainland, and there have been wonderful findings there. I think there's a bento gecko of some sort. There's been years ago there have been quite nice biological surveys that's been done there. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at this for now, and perhaps open up for any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Siew Lyn and David. So we have a couple of questions. Let's take the first one from Anonymous to David. So how was the landscape photograph taken of the island? Was that using a drone? And I guess perhaps you can elaborate a bit more on, was it easy taking those photos, and how did you decide what photos to really take, to really tell? I mean, what was the message that you really want to convey when you were out there taking the photos, and how did you do it?
The images from the top were taken using drones. And I find that that's the most effective way to showcase something, as it's a totally new perspective for most people to look straight down in the middle of the day and penetrate into the corals and all that. That is very, very effective usage of photography. So as you can see, I use the technology that you are able to make it to look like a globe, uh, just so that you can focus attention on the location of the image instead of showing it from the high and you hardly see anything. So the tiny planet effect is very useful to tell the overview of the area. Many times, if not, you will spend hours trying to track up to show something in the forest, when the drone will allow you easy access to show what you need to show in a very short time.
All right, thanks for that, David. So another question comes from Hyping You. So there is a lot of well, with the current trajectory of public awareness, I'm gonna have Siew Lyn answer this. Do you think that the EIA comments are making its way into actual considerations by the government? So the public, anyone can submit comments on the EIA until the 4th of August. So do you have any sense that the EIA comments are being used by the government? If not, what else can the public do?
They have to be. I mean, that's why they open up for public comments, so that anybody can actually write in. And I think the comments go to the Department of Environment, and the Department of Environment has to evaluate this to see whether they, whether all they have to take on board all the different sort of comments that are being made. And what I know is that a lot of scientists are actually writing in, specialists in zoology, specialists in marine science, people who have been involved in conservation for a long time, as well as villagers, as well as people on nursing, as well as NGOs. And it's actually really, really critical that people write in, instead of saying, oh no, this is not going to matter, it's not going to be taken on board. It will be taken on board. Now, what happens after that? Let me just put it this way. Let's wait and see. And the thing is, as we have seen time and again with EIAs, and Yao Hua has covered this for a lot of the forestry or forest use projects that have been happening, is an EIA can get rejected, and then everybody goes, hooray, and then the project proponent resubmits it. And then it could get rejected again, but they can continue over and over and over again with submitting. And each time they do that, it's actually critical for us all. If you feel that there's something that you feel needs to be said or taken into account, it's actually really important for us to continue putting comments in. Yao Hua, just remind me again, when an EIA is resubmitted, do they open it for public comments again or not?
That depends. So if it's totally rejected and then it's a new EIA that comes in again, then it's well, actually even then it's not always, because I've seen instances where it is fully rejected and then it's submitted as a new project, but then it did not go through that public consultation phase. If it was not fully rejected per se, and it was just with revisions, then definitely there is no public consultation. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. But there are many avenues. I mean, you have your Adun's email address, you have the Pahang Menteri Besar's email address. Write to them, lobby them, work as groups. If you feel that something needs to be done, ask the villagers what sort of help they need. What are they doing to organize themselves? And perhaps, Yao Hua, is it possible? Elvin, I think, is online. So Elvin lives on Tioman, and he's been doing a lot of organizing. He's been living there for some years now. Yao Hua, do you think it's possible for Elvin to come online? Okay, brilliant.
Yes.
Hi,
yeah.
Elvin. Hi.
I'm not sure if we are putting him on the spot here. I just allow him to talk. So I mean, if you want, you can chip. You can contribute. I'm not sure if we are putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, maybe you can just share what actually has been going on in terms of the EIA. What have you guys been doing?
Hi everyone. So basically what we've been doing on the island is trying to explain to the islanders what the EIA really says, because many of them weren't able to go through it. It's in English and a lot of pages and very technical. And we've been getting the islanders to send in feedbacks. So we've been getting the islanders to send in feedbacks, comments on why they don't agree with the airport, with the project. And like you said, putting pressure on the government agencies, talking to the different government agencies, trying to get them to also understand why this is going to be a bad development for the island as a whole, not just the coral reefs, but the local communities as well. So that's what we've been doing on the island this past couple of years since it was reintroduced in 2018.
Okay, that's great. Elvin, can you also just say something about the impact of the airport on, so you're a marine biologist, and you know the reefs really, really well. Can you say something about the potential impact of such a large project on the coral reefs?
Yeah, the project, it's actually going to be really devastating to the reefs, not only at the site where the construction and reclamation is going to be, because there the reefs are going to be, it's basically gone, right? They, even in the mitigation, all they're talking about moving is selected species, just the vulnerable species. So all your other coral reef species are going to be buried alive. They're not even bothering to look at it. But adjacent to that site, and sites even as far as they're talking about in the 5-kilometer radius, could be impacted by the sediment plumes, and this is during construction. But after construction, we are expecting, you've got a runway, you're definitely going to get chemicals spilling into the water. You're going to get fuel from the planes, from the vehicles that are on the runway, all these things leaking into the water. And these chemicals are going to cause a real negative impact to the water quality. And that is also going to kill the marine life in that area. Yeah. So the airport also, if you see the way it's built, it's going to disrupt the water currents, the water movement in that area. Now, this is going to impact connectivity of the reef, like how you mentioned earlier. If you look, the reef stretches along the coast, but now you're going to cut them off, and this is going to cut patches of reef away from other reefs. Yeah. Now, for the marine life, like fish and inverts, according to the EIA, it's like, oh, there's minimum impact because the fish can swim away. But a lot of reef fish, they do not move in such large distances, fishes like butterfly fish, like damsels, your common reef fish, they are very confined to a small area of a reef patch, actually. So expecting them to swim like 7 kilometers away to find a new reef, it doesn't really make much sense. And then you've got all the invertebrates, your sessile animals, things like giant clams that are fixed to the bottom. Again, this is an endangered species on our IUCN red list, but there's no mitigation even looking at it. So the impacts are going to be huge, not just at the reclamation area, but the adjacent reefs and for reefs, reefs all along that coast of Tioman, actually.
Thanks very much, Elvin. I know there's another question in there, but I just wanted to add this thing about translocating or relocating or replanting corals. There's actually a really wonderful, very, very thoroughly science-based project in Lang Tengah, which is further up north off the coast of Terengganu. That area is like a giant underwater lab, and I was up there and I dived and I looked at what they were trying to do. And you really need real science to determine what species can actually be relocated. What does it involve? It's down to the individuals. And now with warmer seas and really we're breaking all sorts of records in terms of temperatures in the oceans. And we know, I think everybody's expecting stealing themselves for the worst coral bleaching maybe ever. It's actually going to be a disaster. Like you relocate them in a year that El Nino begins, knowing that temperatures are going to be the highest ever. What do you think the chances of survival will be? But just have a look at that story as well. So we ran these couple of stories about this this amazing, very, very much science-based, thoroughly science-based project that's ongoing, been going for 3 years, where they're trying to look at what it takes to replant corals, not just at species level, but down to individual level. And then there's the whole thing about the cost of doing this as well. So yeah, I'll just stop there.
All right. Thanks, Alvin and Siew Lyn. Sorry. I'm not sure we really did put Alvin to work there. Okay. So there is another question here from Tracy Killing. That is, has there been any international involvement in this, development of an airport? For example, maybe the contractors or the financiers. Did you see any of that, Siew Lyn, in your reporting?
No, I didn't actually go down there. Actually, the wonderful reporting has been done by Malaysia Kini, and I really urge you guys to go and read their report, because they've done a little bit of investigative reporting in terms of who owns the companies that are actually going to be involved. So the question would be who benefits. Alvin, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it either 1.2 billion or 2.1 billion ringgit to develop this?
1.2.
1.2 billion. Okay. Thanks, David. Yeah, so like, where's the money going to come from? Who's going to pay for this? So definitely investment is going to be needed, and the obvious choice one always assumes in this day and age would be from China. And we know that China has a lot of traction. So I'm not sure whether financing is going to come from there. Now in terms of international support, maybe Alvin can come in and answer this question in terms of what Reef Check has done in terms of getting international support, creating awareness internationally. Tracy, by the way, is a wonderful reporter, environmental reporter as well. Do go read her work as well. Her name is Tracy Keeling. Thanks for coming in, Tracy. Alvin?
So unfortunately, we haven't been able to get much attention from foreign media. We have contacted a few, but we haven't got a real response. It hasn't really been picked up, unfortunately. It's a bit surprising, because we were expecting, definitely the foreign media, or even like large dive associations, dive clubs, dive schools would make some noise about it and be up in arms, because they would want to protect this island. But unfortunately, it hasn't gone that way. So far we haven't been able to get much international media attention.
Yeah, there was a story by Monger Bay. So just on this, right? We have several more questions. But some of the questions are a bit technical. But I'd like to pull back to maybe to David and also to Siew Lyn. I mean, what's the there have been Malaysian media have there have been several Malaysian media that reported on this issue, but I think very few, if any, actually produced original photographs. I think Malaysia Kini did produce their own photographs, but I don't think they were underwater. So and so I'd just like to ask Siew Lyn and Siew Lyn, why did you think it was worth it to have David, to commission David to go there and take those photos? And for David, what, in your experience as a photojournalist, like what value, in this case specifically, do you think your photos added to like the investigation or the story? Maybe Siew Lyn first, like, why do you think it was worth it?
Yeah, I think, again, because there's so much coverage and people were looking at the EIA, that I felt it was important to say, what's there? What are we going to lose if there's an airport? What is the airport actually going to cover? And a picture tells a million words. I love photography. I think images are a very powerful storytelling tool, and one image, a million words. Very much a cliche, but very true. And David has a very wonderful ability with his aerial photographs. He's won awards. Look at his Penang books. I mean, they're really, really quite remarkable. And he now, so it's now turned artist, from a photojournalist kind of thing. His work is absolutely amazing. And when you have photographs, in addition to that, spectacular photographs taken, with a different eye, I think that's very powerful storytelling. David?
Yeah, I jumped in this story immediately because we are doing a long-term project called Over Malaysia, where we are trying to document and show Malaysian how beautiful our country is. We have gone to many places where we photograph the local area, and we show it to the local villagers, and they're like, "Wow, where in China is this?" And we'll be going, "No, no, 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 this is your village. This is how beautiful it is." So it's we are very passionate of trying to capture, to document, and to just show common Malaysians that we and you are staying in a beautiful, beautiful country, and we want to share, so that what they always say, you don't love until you learn, until you see it with your own eyes, and that's what we are trying to do. So to be given this opportunity to photograph this exact area, which hopefully will not be destroyed, was a very we just need to do it. So I'm just glad the visuals was well accepted, for people to see themselves. These are the actual areas, the actual species and corals that's going to be destroyed and demolished. So I'm glad we can touch, and hopefully make some changes with what we do. Thank you.
All right. So we have a question from Anonymous also about the so it says actually from Anonymous, it's from Chai Ming Lau, Lau Chai Ming. It says, he asked, while the Tioman Airport issue has reached YB Nik Nazmi, the Ministry for ENRAC, the Environment Ministry, has there been any statement or indication from the Transport Minister Anthony Loh? I think it is equally important to pressure the Transport Minister as well. This was Edmund's question. I'm not sure if Siew Lyn or Alvin has any, I guess, insight into this, but I'll just add that. So in August of last year, in the previous government, Malay Mail did report that then Transport Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong has said that whether the Ministry of Transport agrees to or allows or approves that new airport depends on this National Airport Strategic Plan. And this was in August of last year, and they said the plan would take like 18 months to complete. So I'm not sure if it has been completed yet. I also just asked my friend who is a senior officer in the Ministry of Transport about this, and they haven't replied me yet. But I'm just putting the link to the Malay Mail story here. Okay, so Siew Lyn and Alvin, if you want to respond to this, yeah.
I think Alvin would be better, more equipped to talk about this. But as far as I know, nothing has come from the Transport Minister, not from the Minister himself either. Alvin?
Yes, you're right. Nothing has come from the minister itself, but like what was mentioned earlier, the airport has already been included in that national plan. So in theory, the Ministry of Transportation does not oppose to this new airport.
I just want to. Sorry.
And their reasoning is because it's already been included in the plan.
That's the thing. It's always, it's already part of the plan. It's already in the plan, so we must follow the plan. And I think that's a very interesting take on how decisions are made.
Yes, it's actually very interesting because another big point that the developers are saying is this airport must be built or should be built because it's already in the Tioman development plan as well. But to tell you the truth, I was part of some of the consultations for that Tioman development plan, and every time when it came to the airport issue, it was skipped over It wasn't discussed, it wasn't debated. They just said, oh, this is a sensitive topic, so we'll leave it out for now, carry on with the rest of it. And then in the end, the next thing we knew, when the plan came out, the airport was included in there. So it's very interesting how the plan which everybody says, oh, we need to follow, was not done properly, or not, people were not consulted, and this was not discussed properly. And yet now, suddenly we all seem to have to follow that plan.
By the way, I did try to reach out to the Pahang state government and state excos, but didn't get a reply. I also tried to reach out to the project proponents, also no response. In fact, nobody was answering the phone, and definitely nobody answered my email. The EIA consultants did call me back, which was absolutely wonderful, but said they could not comment.
Yeah, the EIA consultants have never been able to comment or at least, reply any of our questions. Okay, so there is a question here from Winsim Tan. Is there any endangered or threatened species, found in the proposed construction site? I think Alvin did mention just now that, there are vulnerable species. And Siew Lyn, when you were looking, did you look at the list of species? What did you notice?
Yeah, I think what they're saying is that other than so that whole part fringing the villages and where the roads and all that are considered degraded forest. And Yao Hua, you know the term degraded forest very well, which is they've got very high threshold for forest degradation. So not quite sure what measurements they use to determine that the forests were degraded. It looks pretty green, right? I think they weren't able to find, but I really didn't comb through that carefully, and it took me a while to go through the EIA report, so I can't quite remember. So anybody who has gone through it, including Alvin, if you remember any of these, the only thing is that it's the flying foxes. They are the largest population of flying foxes in Peninsular Malaysia. And there are two permanent, this is according to Dr. Shima, there are two permanent colonies. One is in Kampung Teke, and the other one is across the island on Kampung Juara, and they move around. So I think Alvin was telling me, right, sometimes they'll be found up north in ABC, in the Salang area. Sometimes they come down to Genting to roost, and they move around. So they're animals, and just because this area is being studied, it doesn't mean that the animals just stay there and then, So in terms of trees and plants, I'm not sure, but I think there might not be any so-called vulnerable species or threatened species. It's the same thing with the corals. So if there are no vulnerable or threatened species, does this mean that they can go? I guess that's the other question that one might ask.
There is a question here by Anonymous. Would Tioman be degazetted if the airport is approved, considering the scale of impact it has on the biodiversity and the ecosystem itself? So based on what I've read, Tioman is now actually a wildlife reserve, according to Perhilitan. I actually did not know that. So yeah, Siew Lyn, did you have any idea on this?
Again, Alvin, back me up on this, but I think they have written to the Marine Parks Department, which is under the Fisheries Department, and I think they have actually agreed to degazette that part of it for the airport, for purposes of building the airport. The wildlife reserve, I don't think anything has come out. I did not explore that. So Alvin, unless you know something.
Yep. So correct, you're right. Tioman, a large part of Tioman is a wildlife reserve. About 60% of the island is a wildlife reserve, but less than 1% of the wildlife reserve falls inside the construction area. Regarding the marine park, you're right. The state government has asked to degazette the marine park, the Tioman Marine Park entirely, or parts of the Tioman Marine Park. But the Department of Fisheries has not agreed to this. They did not agree to this request to degazette the marine park. And would the marine park be degazetted because of the construction? I don't think that would happen. I don't see why it has to happen because of the construction. They might yeah, if they do approve this project, they will introduce very strict mitigation processes, I guess, but I don't see why they would then accept it.
Right. Thanks, Alvin, for that. So just I guess one last question here, from Brian, who like to know if the project proponent, Tioman Infra, has said anything about the EIA itself. You know, they didn't respond to us, but did they say anything else publicly, you know, about this project? Siew Lyn, have you come across that?
No, I haven't.
I'm not sure. David, when you were reporting, did you, I guess, speak with anyone from Tioman Infra at all?
No, nobody was there.
All right. Okay, yeah. I as far as I know, I don't think they did say anything about it. So yeah. All right. Oh, okay. There's this one other. Let's take this one question before we move on to a slightly something else. No, besides tourism as the main economic contributor on the island, you know, are there other economic activities? Yeah, that matter, I guess. Siew Lyn or Alvin?
Actually,
Yeah.
I'll defer to Alvin here because you live there.
Okay, so there's a small number of fishermen. There are 25 registered fishermen on the island, and there are also a few families that are still involved in agriculture. So they have a rubber plantation, and then some of them have fruit orchards. But the vast majority of them are directly involved in tourism, or they are providing supplementary services. So, you know, they're taxi drivers for tourists, they've got restaurants, and then, of course, you've got mechanics who repair the cars of the taxi drivers, things like that. But yeah, so that's the main economy revolves around tourism, actually.
Yeah, which then I guess really begs the question of, you know, if you know, everyone is saying, like, you know, every expert, you know, is saying that this would really devastate an international airport of this scale at this location, will really devastate the ecosystem, the biodiversity, and thus the appeal of Tioman Island as a tourism destination. And if you say, you know, so much of the economy depends on that, it really begs the question of, you know, what's the cost benefit analysis of this thing, you know, how could it make sense? But yeah, so I guess that's the question in everyone's mind. I think many of us probably have an answer, but we have to see, you know, where the EIA goes. So I'd like to ask, you know, I guess, you know, just now Siew Lyn did say that there is a lot of value to, you know, commissioning a story of this kind and then sending David to go and take all these really awesome photos. Siew Lyn, can you give us an idea of, like, what's the, I guess, the cost or the time, you know, not just the money type of cost, but also the effort that's required to do a story like this? Yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, we didn't plan on doing this story, but I think, you know, so many people were upset by this whole thing. And then I happened to speak to David and just ask him, first of all, to reach out to his extensive network to just, you know, create awareness. And then I just thought, hey, you want to go and take photos or not? And luckily he said yes. So I think in total, this is just a rough estimate. Let's look at it as two journalists, myself and David. Say we spent about 4 days reporting. And David went out to the island. I didn't, health reasons, but David went out with Rebecca, and they went out to do the field reporting there, to do the photography and all that sort of thing. So let's put that as 4 days reporting. I did interviews through the phone, and I looked through the EIA, and I did research online. Then it took about 2 days to do the writing, and maybe 1 day, David, to do editing of photos or more selection of photos. How many photos did you take in total, actually?
Plus the drone, probably 2005.
So from 2,500 photos, we could only use either 9 or 10. And you know, so that's the amount of culling he had to do, and then he had to Photoshop, color correct, blah 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 blah. So maybe 1 day editing.
Yeah,
about 1 day editing. Yeah. then the editing of the text, which Yahua did, and map making, maybe 1 day layout, right? So you have about 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 days, say 1 week to put up the story in total, but with spaces in between. So we calculated the photographer's fee, the travel and transport and parking, marine park fee, accommodation. Don't forget that David came down all the way from Penang. He didn't fly, he drove his car. He had all his equipment with him, including his dive equipment. In total, maybe we spent about maybe 2.5 for this story, actual fee. But David gave us a very, 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 very good fee, incredibly good fee. We also waived some the writer's fee and the editor's fee. If I had gone along, it would have bumped up the costs a little bit as well. And we have to thank whoever the secret Santas are, I guess, who sponsored the tanks for diving. And of course, Alvin was the one who brought David diving, as well as showed him the different spots, pointed all these out. So we really thank Alvin and Reef Tech Malaysia, as well as the locals, who have been very kind and very open in sharing information. So together with all these hidden costs, the hidden costs actually come out to about, believe it or not, 4,005. And I calculated this several times, that sort of thing. And so it would have cost us about 6,000 ringgit to produce the story. And this is a photo essay. So that Macaranga produces in-depth series where we can spend up to 6 months, maybe sometimes up to a year, with, again, gaps in between to produce a story. So it's not cheap to put something together like this. So we really hope that it helps to create awareness. And if you feel that you want to do something about it, please do something about it. Share the story widely. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously not when I promote this story on social media, I actually call it a costly story to make. Costly both in terms of the investment required and also of the very tight schedule that we have to we have to beat to pull off this story. So but we need to do more of these stories, and there's a lot more that we do not know, and there's a lot more that we need to do and to do better. So one way anyone can help is to be a Macaranga supporter. So we have already launched our membership program, and there are already many of our supporters here tonight, listening in and also asking questions. So thanks a lot for that, for your support. Those who are not yet a supporter, please go to the link that I have just put in the chat, learn about it and see if it interests you. But all our stories and all the stories that we publish are free to read for all. So definitely, as a Macaranga supporter, you are contributing to making our stories free for everyone to read. All right, yeah, I think that's it. It's already 9:30. We still have some questions, but I apologize, we can't get to those questions. So yeah, but if you have questions, feel free to write them in the comment section of our story. And if we know the experts or whoever who has knowledge and can answer those questions, we'll direct them to the comment section of the story too, and then you guys can have a conversation there. Once again, thank you to everyone who are turned up, and thank you for your patience and for your time. Thank you to David and Siew Lyn for your contribution. Thank you to Alvin who has done so much for the island and the islanders, and and also tonight. So thank you again, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much.
Thank you and good night.
Bye.